This is the Grappling Grind Show, episode 26. Carl Fisher. Welcome to the Grappling Grind Show. My guest today is Carl Fisher, a lifelong martial artist with many years experience. He holds black belts in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, traditional Jiu Jitsu, karate. He has a level 1 in Catch Wrestling, where he trained at the Snake Pit in Wigan, and he has trained in all sorts of styles and martial arts and combat sports all over the world, and we're going to learn all about that today. So first of all, Carl, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. You've been someone I've been trying to get on. Well, actually, no, we've been trying to do this for quite a while.
Yes, we have.
Our schedules have never
aligned,
quite matched up. No, not at all. So, again, our first question to everyone that's on it the first time: where did martial arts first appear for you? Where did you first see it? Get an idea for it?
Well, I'm 54, so you know it's going to be Bruce Lee. For most people, that was my first recollection of seeing it on the television, and it was like absolutely mind blowing. And one of my friends, when I was I would say secondary school, he was into karate, so he was the first person close to me who I knew that did martial arts that wasn't on the silver screen.
Yeah,
and he got his black belt, and it was very flexible. It was very flashy with the moves, and we went to see him compete and stuff. And I dabbled a little bit, like every teenager did, but nothing.
Yeah,
nothing serious. And then I was about 18, 19. I got the hiding of my life in Bolton Town Centre, on an infamous taxi rank on Bank Street. People in Bolton will know it's
taxi ranks in general are a nice place for things like that, aren't they?
Yeah. But yes, back then, pubs and clubs spat you out at 2:00 in the morning. So not all this all night where people just go out now at midnight. So everybody's out fighting for taxis, and sadly there've been a few fatalities at that place. And yeah, I got a right good hiding. Two guys pinned me up against the wall. Another lad. Back then, people had sovereign rings on, so they were like pretty much like knuckle dusters. So I had a lot of impressions of old sovereign rings. What's that?
I said I got a scar there from a sovereign ring. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, they were the weapon of choice. You could have them on your fingers, and nobody. You weren't in trouble. So yes, I had a week off work, and my friend, called Jason Fenimore, he came round and saw me, and he said, "Look, you need to come back to karate, learn how to defend yourself." I thought, well, my dad was on it and everybody else. I thought, right, okay, I'll give it a whirl. And that was my main introduction into the martial arts. And it was a combat style. It was like Wadaroo. The sensei was Steve Costello, and he was affiliated with Phil Milner. He was quite a famous character. they were in, I think, the Guinness Book of Records or something like that. They demolished, him and his students, they demolished like a stone cottage just by karate kicks and punches. It was quite a story if you look him up, Phil Milner. It was all punches and kicks and elbows. It was a crazy guy. But that's where I learned about striking, about the striking arts. So the training was tough. It was in a little scout hut, weekends and a couple of days in the week. And I remember we did just like regular sparring, no punches and kicks, and we had like little mitts on and a head guard and stuff.
Yeah.
But rather than do it on the floor, he had those old benches that you had from school. When you sat in class,
hooks on the end to hook it onto the bench.
The hooks, that's it, and you could slide down them and all that. But we'd be sparring on that. So it was like if you got kicked off, that was it. You were out. And I was only like in my coloured belt phases. I wanted a black belt. The black belts would foot sweep you, and I mean really front kick you off. They were pretty brutal with it. But I was young and I thought, I like this. This is what I want to do. So from that, I moved from where I lived. The karate club was right around the corner. So I was still going, and then I stopped for a bit, got some work, working away, and then I moved to another part of Bolton, and I kept bumping into this big guy in the shop, big 1920 stone, big mustache and everything.
Yeah.
And we just got chatting and just went about martial arts. And I said, I'd done karate. And he said, I do jiu-jitsu. I've got a gym down the bottom of the street. It was called Venom Gym at the time. And that was Trevor Roberts. And
I know the name, yeah.
Then from there, I got into the traditional jiu-jitsu, but his style was it was known as applied jiu-jitsu because he was a doorman, security guy, bodyguard, all that kind of thing. So it was a mix of traditional. So we did all the throws and stuff, but a lot of it was very much applied to real world violence. And then we started learning groundwork. So this was 92, I think, 1992, 93. The karate was about 1988.
So how are you finding the idea of groundwork then? Because for someone who to this point has more or less been a striker, suddenly like, okay, now we're going to get on the floor. Isn't that something you've been avoiding to this point? Or
yeah, I think with the karate, we didn't really do much groundwork because it's just predominantly a striking art.
Standing thing, yeah.
My sensei at the time, he wasn't into, we don't need to be on the floor. We don't train to fight on the floor. They get these people, don't do this, we don't do that. He showed a few things to get him back up once he'd been knocked down, kind of thing. So it was applicable. But when we did the groundwork, it was like, God, what's all this? Got these younger people just like pinning me and choking me and like submitting me and everything, and it was a strange feeling because I was used to being standing, striking, and then that just opened up another world. And I thought, I want to learn this. And it was in my traditional that I learned the scissor sweep, which is one of my favourite techniques. I still teach now in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I learned the Kimura, it was double wrist lock. Udigarama, which is your Americana, because it's all in Japanese. Lots of chokes, shimiwaza, like clock chokes, lots of judo style. But Trevor had a background in catch wrestling, so that's where I learned my face bars, my Nelsons, got the introductions into all that, and then that all opened up a whole door from the grappling world, and that's been going on since 1992. From the grappling side, I've done boxing, Thai boxing. I've been to Tiger Camp in Thailand, in Phuket, to do the Muay Thai. I went there, that was fantastic. Phil Baroni was there at the time, that was 2010. He was prepping for some fights, so we did a lot of wrestling classes for MMA, which was really good. That's exciting. I did some competitions out there as well. And Trevor also trained in Sambo, the Russian arts.
No, cool.
So I got a lot of training from that. And then I was doing judo at the time in and around Bolton with Matt Klempner, who was also head of his own Sambo association. So I was getting Sambo from Matt, Sambo from Trevor. We did, before BJJ comps came along, we did Sambo competitions with Martin Clark, who was down in Sittingbourne, I think, in Kent. So his style was, it was known as Sambo, just from the acronyms. And that's so I did my first Sambo comps, I think, in 1994 in Herne Bay. Again, met guys like Mick Poole, judo guys, Paul Sawyer. I fought him a couple of times in Sambo. Thought I'd trade leg locks with him. not a good idea, you know, against a decorated veteran like himself. We're still in contact with him, still laugh about that, but you know, who knows? It was a good experience. And then slowly, over the years, I got my first dan and second dan with Trevor. BJJ was just coming in, like Carly Gracie. I think he did a seminar in '94. So we're down in the Midlands, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't make that at the time, but I read about it, Combat Magazine, and then the big magazine was Fighting Arts International, Terry O'Neill's. That was probably one of the first written articles about the UFC. It was written by Tony Blauer, you know, the American who does the spear system, like the self-defense.
I think so. Yeah, rings about. I think I've probably got that somewhere. I remember in Combat Magazine as well. But that's what I was going to say. The interesting thing with all the stuff you're doing at the moment is it's very, very early 90s, and something hasn't appeared yet. Yet you're still into your martial arts. It wasn't until, was it September? Wasn't it September '93 was the first UFC? Now I only learned about it on. Do you remember The Word?
Yes,
Channel 4.
Yeah.
They did, I think the week after, they literally ran like a 90-second. Hey, this was on last week. Oh, look at this. Terry Christian sort of thing. And they showed literally like a music video montage of about maybe a minute and a half. And I was like, what the hell was that? I need to find that. And then just spent like the next years just sort of searching for it and no one really knowing what it was or heard of it. You had to have seen it at that because there was no, you couldn't watch it on demand again in those days. If you didn't have a videotape ready, I know people don't get that anymore. If you didn't have your videotape ready to record it, you wouldn't have seen it. And they said, oh, and Hoist Gracie won. They showed literally some clips, and that was it then. And just trying to track it down through tape traders and things like that. And then eventually we had some on video. But for that, I was only, I don't know, it was the year I left school, so I'd have been about 15, 16 then, trying to do something. I was already doing judo then. But for someone like yourself, who's already training in amongst these people, can you remember that sort of event coming through? Was it the big revolution that it proclaimed, or was it just sort of something that if you were there, you knew about it, other people weren't that bothered?
Yeah, I think I think if you was in martial arts, you kind of heard about it. It was a ripple. Obviously, YouTube wasn't really around at that time, and
nothing like
you had
that.
Mobile phones, but there weren't smartphones. So your main word of mouth, it was the magazines.
Yeah.
Combat, I remember, and Martial Arts Illustrated, they didn't really run with it. They didn't think it was.
Well, it was looking at it now. It was killing some of their five-fingered touch of death stuff, wasn't it?
Of
or
course,
whatever,
like
that sort of thing. Looking back at it now, but at the time, I used to get combat, and there might be like a bit in it. Like so, I do remember an article, mate, which is probably the one you're talking about, and that's in my loft somewhere, I imagine. So I've still got it all boxed up. But yeah, it was kind of a weird thing. But what did you think about it as it's been explained to you?
Yeah, that was the first port of call. Was reading the review of the UFC. It was by Tony Blauer, and it had the photographs of the Gracie train. I'm thinking, oh, this is something interesting. They're pitching styles against styles and things. And yeah, it was a while before the tape trading came along. So it was kind of like an underground network.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit like Fight Club kind of thing. Not everybody, not everybody knew about it. I'd talk about it to my friends in the pub, and they'd not heard of it at all. I think it was more if you was in your martial arts. And then I got into grappling side of things, spreading around in Manchester, trained all over Manchester and the Northwest. And you just hear whispers, oh, such a body's got a copy. Such a body's got a copy. Not many people had the chance to record it. So you'd find out somebody got the video, and then there'd be like 20 people around the guy's house. They put it on and you watch it.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, this is fantastic. And you see like Hoyce Gracie, dead skinny, beating all these big guys, and the different styles coming through. I'm thinking, all right, I didn't make me want to go out and learn Gracie Jiu Jitsu or Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, because it was in like pretty much America, really, or Brazil. At the time, I was only 23. I wasn't thinking about going traveling abroad just then.
Yeah.
But I wanted to learn more about the grappling side. So I thought, well, I've got my karate, I've got my limited amount of judo, some sambo, and some traditional jiu-jitsu for my groundwork. And then I went to some proper places when it got a bit more popular, and then I just got absolutely annihilated. I went down to about 99, 2000. Went to down in Birmingham, I think it was in Shirley. Mauricio Gomez had a club. I did it in a leisure centre. I've still got a picture somewhere, and it was pretty much the first wave of blue belts. Barry Foley, his partner, Andy Smith, Andy Roberts. I think the bald-headed Andy Roberts, Andy with an E, not Andy with a Y, and a few other names that escaped me, and we got absolutely smashed. And I thought, God, I've been training, for so long, but it was we didn't know it was different, because I was doing with my traditional. I was doing lots of throws and pad work and things. So the groundwork was good, but obviously I know what I know now. They'd be training with Mauricio. He's come over from Brazil. He's a legend. I got my blue belt from Mauricio way back, 2003. Still speak to him, still see him at seminars down here in London. And obviously, all they're doing is just training, bit of stand-up and predominantly groundwork. Techniques and rolling. So they're exposed to more of the sparring and things. And I drive to Birmingham every week, and then he'd go down to London. Like Roger came, I think he was a blue belt. There was lots of, I think it was a third space. I remember that. It was either Kensington or Kennington, one of the two. Yeah. I'd go down there every Saturday, pretty much. By then I was on the doors, because I'd got my black belts in applied jiu-jitsu. So I wanted to see what worked, because I was teaching. So you can either go out in town and have a drink and have a fight, or try and get paid and have a fight and not get arrested. So I was learning my craft on the doors as well. And I was adding everything, whether it's karate, sambo, BJJ, neon belly, and security works in absolute, for controlling, X, Y, Z. And so I'd be working there on a Friday night, coming home at 4 o'clock in the morning, and waking up, boom, pick up a few students, drive down to Rogers for his 11 o'clock class till 1, have a bite to eat with everybody, drive back up to Bolton, and then boom, back on another night shift on the doors. So it's pretty crazy, but you had to travel. It wasn't on your doorstep. Like
I say now. So I spent years looking, and then now I wish I was 16 now.
Yeah,
every corner's got something on you can train it. You know what I mean? It's just like, but I'm too old now, but I'm still trying. But I'll just say you make an interesting point about the applied jiu-jitsu. I mean, a lot of people train in jiu-jitsu. I don't want to upset anyone, but I'm not going to say here. But the actual, like Robert Drysdale, I was talking to the other day, he just said, he talked. I'm paraphrasing here. I don't want to misquote him, but he was saying like about he looks at like what's working in UFC at the moment. That's modern jiu-jitsu. He said that's what we should be doing because that's working, not all the spinny rounds and all that. He said, right, how are they taking them down? Okay, we'll do that. That's what it is. And do you think that appliedness is still there? Because some would say over the years, I get it that it's a business now as well, and you want people coming back through the doors. But do you think anything's missing, or it's got soft, or people, you know what I'm trying to say?
There's a fine balance. Because I trained.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to walk. Yeah. Not upset anyone.
It's a balance. I saw the interview with Rob. He's a really good guy. His books are excellent. He refereed my matches in Sweden, and I was a blue belt. Little interesting fact.
Cool.
It's pretty cool. And this was back in the day when it was just held on one day. And I was at the time I was a reporter. I was reporting for ADCC website and all the magazines, like Grappling magazine, Gong in Japan. I was contributing to all kinds of stuff, and I'd go out and report on these comps, and I'd enter them as well. And I was a blue belt. This was probably 2003, 2004, and he refereed my matches. And then I didn't fight till 8 o'clock at night. I've been there since like 9 o'clock in the morning. Rob refed all day, then went on and competed at midnight in the black belts, and there were still people in, and the black belts went on. I think there's 3 or 4 of them, and Rob just annihilated them after reffing all day. And you could have heard a pin drop when they came on, because it was such, a big deal is an understatement. You're like, wow, there's black belts on the mats, and we're in touch, and we shook hands with them, and we can talk to them, and it was a big thing. Like now, they're everywhere, aren't they? But getting back to what Rob said, when I did my applied jiu-jitsu with Trevor, the stuff that was applied to like real world violence, like working on the doors, or you get in trouble out on the streets, and the training, it's hard. It's repetition. You don't need 35 different ways to block or punch. When it's real world in your faces. I got attacked, years ago. A guy attacked me with a knife, and he had it in his hand like that. And he went to stab me, and it would have gone in here, in my neck. It would have killed me. It was the training I did with Trevor. I was very lucky. It was in the front room, so I managed to use the environment. I did the block, and I managed to pin him against the wall, got the knife off him, and what have you. And from that day on, when I teach myself defense, that's the only block I'll teach. I don't need to do all these different things. It's good to have the knowledge if you're doing it for art's sake, but if you're teaching for self-defense, it's a different approach to training. And I think like BJJ, I think the early days, yes, like the Hicks and Gracie stuff, you've got the jiu-jitsu for Valetudo. You want to be few strikes, clinch, take down. But you don't, when I was a doorman, you don't want to be, I'll do the punch and clinch, but I don't want to be taking somebody down unless I've got some backup, or you're on a dance floor and it's full of broken glass and bottles, or you might slip taking somebody out, might slip on the floor. You don't want to be rolling around. You want to get up quickly. So the technical get up was an eye opener for me when I was working the doors, because you'd be on dance floors and you'd trip up, and people would just give you a kick. When you probably seen them out the week before. But with the BJJ now, I think it's more sport jiu-jitsu. I don't think there's as many people, especially down here. I'm in London. The self-defense classes, again, they're not as busy as the jiu-jitsu classes, but I try and cross both, try and put appliedness into my Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And I think what my students get from that, they get a lot of self-confidence from doing the Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And I could see I've had people, they come in with their heads down, they've had some trouble in the past, and they're a bit frightened, so they think, all right, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu is the buzzword. So they come, I teach them some stuff, and I had self-defense elements in as well, you know. And then you see the body language change. They're a bit more upright, head up, not down. And I think the change in body language and confidence can be enough when you're outside. You know, you're walking a bit more confidently. You're not scared of your surroundings. So if there's somebody out there who wants a bit of trouble, they see you in a confident manner, they'll think, right, we don't want to deal with him. They want easy pickings, don't they? You know, they want somebody, and we all do it, don't we? On our phones, unaware of your surroundings, all the situational awareness and all that type of stuff. But yeah, I think it's not as brutal. When I did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the beginning, it was a mix. You'd get a lot of JKD, Wing Chun. There was a lot of different styles that came in. It came in with the street fighter mentality. You know, when I first started teaching in Bolton, I'd get people, I'm a street fighter. We don't need these techniques. We fight for the street. So it was, I don't think it was proper Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but what you kind of see now, you know, because there were so many different styles that came in with their preconceived ideas of fighting and using the techniques. So yeah, it's a big.
So it could be a podcast in itself.
No,
so it's going to really go that easily.
Does BJJ work on the street? You've seen it all, haven't you? So,
100%. Talking about tournaments, then I'm sure I read or saw in another interview you had an interesting first tournament, didn't you? Weren't you just sort of was that when you went to America and suddenly you were in a tournament and?
Yes.
I've
not been.
Spring it on you.
I went to John and Higa Machado's academy in Los Angeles. I think it was John. John came over, I think the April of '99. He did a seminar in Hull. I think it was at Andy Norman's. And they just said, come on over and train. And that's what I thought, I'm going to do this. So I saved up, worked the doors, did everything, sold a load of gear, training gear and stuff like that. I had some eskrima. I was into the stick fighting stuff.
Oh yeah.
Got the suits, and I sold that, all that training gear, sold my car, all the lot, went over there. I think I'd only been there 2 or 3 weeks. Egan said, oh, what's your age? Oh, taking an interest in me. Said, what's your weight? I said, right, you're fighting on Saturday. God, I'm thinking, is it MMA? I've not done any cage. Is it cage fighting? I'm like, God. But it was a Machado interclub tournament. And it was at this high school somewhere in California, I can't remember. And it was only an interclub. It was massive. There was like 12 competition areas. And so I've never seen anything. Everything's large in America. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I've never seen so many people. You know, white belts, blue belts. And I was a white belt at the time. And at the same time, I ended up training. Scott Goddard was there at the same time. And he was in, I think he was blue belt there, or he was a blue belt. And he competed in the blue belt. I competed in the white belt. And I think I had 3 matches. So I lost my first one, won my second. And then I think I did the absolute. I think I got triangled in that. He went on to win. But it was a fantastic experience. I had John Jack Machado had come back from ADCC. So he was in my corner. And Egan was in my corner. And John Machado was in my corner. And Rico Rodriguez, he was a purple belt at the time.
It's not a bad corner to have.
Oh, that's some kind of corner, you know. And
That's ruined you for any other tournament afterwards, isn't it? You got cornered like that in your first tournament.
This is fantastic, you know. I won one. That was my first one. The guy was from a Las Vegas affiliate, and I got an Americana. It's one of my favourite submissions, so I was over the moon. You know, we all win, we all lose, but no, that's your first win on foreign soil, and everybody's yay, shaking your hands, and you know, it's like, wow, I want more of this. You know?
Did you notice any differences in maybe like styles or techniques as such from like what you're doing in England to when you went over there and started training with them? Were there different emphasis on different things, or?
Yeah, I would say it was very Brazilian, you know, because it was with John and Egan. They were Brazilian. You had Dirty Dozen guys like David Meyer was there when I was there. Chris Houter was there teaching. I was very fortunate. John Will was there at the time. He runs Australian side of the Machados. He was there training. I had Cindy Amatsu. I think she was the US's first black belt female. She was a purple belt. Dan Inosanto, he used to train. I got a photograph with him. He used to sit outside the academy because they were never on time, John and Egan, you know, Brazilian time. And I'd be sat on the pavement with Dan Inosanto, and it's just surreal. You know, see him on the television, and I'm just sat with him. He was a brown belt at the time, and he'd come out and say, "He'd have a Gatorade," and we just sat and talking about Rick Young with him, and just asking him about his movies and everything. It's just unbelievable for somebody from Bolton to be exposed like this. Eric Paulson was out there. I trained with him. He was in Burton Richardson's gym, and that was just across the road from where I was staying. So we'd do gi and no gi, but then you'd get Eric Paulson style, and he'd go on and he'd roll with everybody in the class, and he'd just annihilate everybody. So you got his Judo kind of
sort of hybriding, wasn't it? Yeah.
So you got all that side, and then say with John and Egan, you got the, let's say, pure jiu-jitsu, but it was proper Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Where I was back in the Northwest, it was a bit of a hybrid of bit of wrestling, a bit of catch, a bit of judo. You know, so they kind of complemented each other. You know, I was a white belt, but I did catch a few people. I caught a purple belt with my scissor sweep when I was a white belt, because I've been doing the scissor sweep in my groundwork. Years, for about 5 or 6 years before I went to America. So I remember I swept him, Egan and John, pull out, whoa, and all that. And I thought, oh God, I'm going to regret this. I could see it. You know, I could see him get angry and he choked me out, battered me black and blue. You know, but I got a couple of things, and it was all how we teach now. Warm up, some takedowns, maybe some throws, technical section, drilling, guard passes, that kind of stuff. Then specifics and rolling. So that was every single class. And I was 28, 29. So I trained morning and night, Monday to Friday, and Saturday open mat, and Sunday was your day off. So I was getting about like 2 or 3 months worth of training in the UK per week. So you got the volume.
That's right,
You got a massive volume.
And getting your reps in as well.
That's it. You're being taught by like John and Egan, and all the other Brazilians were flying in. There's loads of black belts who names I don't know. They were all coming in, you know, from Brazil. So the talent of instruction, or the wealth of knowledge, that I think that separated it. You know, they don't want to come over to England with its cold weather. You know, they're in LA, aren't they? They're right next to the beach.
Don't blame them, yes.
Yeah, you know, so you can't.
It's all there for them, isn't it?
So the level was high, but I got one of my first wins over there on foreign soil, you know, against a guy from a proper Machado affiliate club. So I thought, well, I've learned something whilst I was there.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, what was it like then? Because when you came back, it must have been a bit of a culture shock.
Yes,
to sort of come back and then like back to your normal gym and say, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So how
I'd
did you
been
keep?
coming
How
back
did you keep
from,
yourself? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I came back. I was used to walking around in flip flops, shorts, no top. Finish a class. I was like, I had like a BMX kind of bike. I'd just cycle to the gyms in and around where I was staying in the Mosa Beach. Lock your bike up, go upstairs, get your boogie board out, run using the sea by in the Pacific by 1 minute. Down the beach, soft gold sand, boom. And then I'm back in Bolton and it's pissing down with rain. It was awful when I came back. I came back just after summertime and it was just like,
Oh
I was
man.
arriving, it's pouring down with rain. I've still got my suntan and I'm just like, oh God. This was it. It was awful. And there still wasn't loads of BJJ. There was Rogers and stuff, yes, of
Yeah.
course. But
So how are you growing then? Because you come back from that where you've just had like BJJ heaven for like the time you're over there with like all this knowledge, this wealth of knowledge and everything. You're coming back now in a country where it's still an emerging thing. What are you doing to keep yourself? Because I imagine for me, I think motivation might. So I might go from there to there. Like sort of. I'm just trying to picture myself and thinking, oh, I had all that, and now I've got one class a week on a Friday in the Scout Hut or whatever, that sort of thing. And I don't know. How did you keep yourself motivated? What were you doing? Yeah. How did you keep going? Oh, you're frozen. Hello? 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 Ah,
we're back.
we're back. Yeah, it just all froze on me, and I was just like, I thought, oh no, I don't want to reset it. Yeah, so
We'll
sorry
go back
about
to
that.
that question then, can't we? If you want to
Yeah, that's
repeat
right.
the question again.
Yeah, so how do you keep yourself motivated then? So you've gone from this like BJJ heaven of black belts and trainers and even the guy that sweeps the floors talent, like everyone in there is just
Yes.
oozing talent through to like, right, you're back now in Bolton, you've got one lesson a week at the Scout Hut or whatever it was, I'm paraphrasing it slightly here and playing it down. But, how do you keep yourself motivated? Because I'd probably be like, well, I'm never going to top that again. I don't know, but
It
sort of
was.
crashed down.
Yeah, it was. It was difficult. I had to come back. And let's say the weather was atrocious, and I've been used to being on the beach and being a bit beach bum lifestyle and all that kind of thing. But I thought I don't want to let it go to waste.
Yeah.
So I just carried on with Trevor. By this time, I've been doing like the judo and sambo. I got in touch or found like Atherton Submission Wrestling Club. The late Jack Mountford was there with Darren Morris, and a bit of the wrestling club in Bolton. They'd be there, and there'd be people like wrestlers like Shane and Darren Rigby, Barry the Bastard Scargill, that was his nickname. All these crazy guys at the wrestling club, and it wasn't Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, but it was back then. It was submission wrestling.
Yeah.
So there's no rash guards, none of these shorts and spats and all those horrible things. It was just t-shirt, shorts, wrestling boots, and it was full on intense submission wrestling. It wasn't Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, but it was as close as I could get with no gi.
Yeah.
It had everything in takedowns, all the wrestling pins, Americanas, Kimuras, heel hooks, face bars, everything. It was, and I loved it. And then, so I'd be doing that through the week, and then I'd be working the doors. And then any BJJ seminar, bump, you were on it. I'd be travelling over to Yorkshire to train over in Doncaster, with the Gracie Barrelot was over there. Back in the early days, any seminars, and I was reporting as well.
Cool. Yeah,
into Los Angeles, and I got in touch. Todd Hester, he was the editor, the editor of Grappling magazine. He trained at Hegan's, so I got involved with Todd, and then he said, "How would you like to report on things in like Britain and Europe?" Because it was just starting up.
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate in that. So I started sending in little seminar reports and things to other places. And then what happened? That was about 2000. So I made it my job then to find seminars in England. And I'd do some training reports, things like that. And then I ended up going to ADCC in 2001. I was working for the website for ADCC. I was like a European correspondent. And that's when everything like changed. No, this was 24 years ago now.
Yeah.
I got flown out, all expenses paid, 5-star hotel with everybody competing in ADCC. And I'd had my, at the time, this is a long time ago, my memory's a bit hazy, but I had the column in Grappling magazine and I was reporting for ADCC at the time. So
God, I remember all this. I was probably reading your words at the time as a young lad. That was the next thing. Sorry, but that was the next thing. When I found out about ADCC, that was the next thing I was trying to find on tape trade things and all that. But it wasn't always recorded. And then I remember I think it was Tito and Matt Hughes at one point, but before they were Tito and Matt Hughes,
that's right,
Matt Hughes. I remember something like that. Yeah, but sorry, carry on.
Yeah. So we got.
I remember all that. I was reading your words. That's just weirded me out a little bit.
So I had the magazine. I had the report. I was reporting for ADCC, and I went out to ADCC 2001. That was Mark Kerr and Mario Sperry, and I got to interview everybody. It was unbelievable time, and what was really surreal. I got a taxi from the airport with Nelson Montero to the hotel, and it was like 2:00 in the morning or something.
Yeah,
it was day before everything. I get myself signed in. Enzo Gracie comes down. Carl Fisher, you're Carl Fisher. I'd seen him at some seminars in London.
Yeah,
at High Wycombe. And said, "Oh, you must come and have some food with us and everything." I'm like, "Oh, wow, yeah." Went up into this room. There's Cachireo, Flavio Almeida, loads of other Gracies, about 8 of them in the room. And we're all in the hotel. Obviously, there was no alcohol. You can't drink. But everything was on the house. So I'd been flying for hours. I was starving. And so we ordered all this food, lobsters, everything. So we sat, and everybody in the room, they all knew who I was from the Grappling magazine column.
Makes sense.
And they go, "Hey, man, we read you in You're the Voice of Europe." And I'm like, I'm a white belt from Bolton. And people are recognising me. I'm the fan. And they're all laughing about it. I said, "Oh, I'm the fanboy. No, it should be me that's like, oh my God, I'm in the same room." So it was like that for a full week. So one story, got the lift in the morning for breakfast. Bruce Buffer's in the lift. He recognised me. He said, "Hey, you're Carl Fisher, man. I've read your articles in Grappling and ADCC," because that's all you had.
Yeah.
So now everything's multimedia, isn't it? There's podcasts everywhere.
Everything now, yeah.
But back then, you didn't.
Yeah, no, I remember.
You just had grappling. The US grappling. It was the Bible.
I just always remember because I used to like the old American wrestling as well, and there's only like one news agent in Southampton City Centre that would have like the wrestling mags, the grappling mags, the combat, and you know, you had to get there quick. Or I think it's a Wednesday because they'd be gone otherwise. Because then you got like, for some reason, you never got like 2 in. You know, you probably would have sold loads if you thought about it, but.
Yeah, exactly the same in Bolton.
Yeah.
There was one guy in town called Ray. He had an open paper shop, and he always put one to one side for me, and that was it. It was like a rush to get down, and you got the magazine, and you had your photo shoots of all the techniques and stuff. You know, it was a different era. But now everybody's got it, boom, haven't they, on your fingertips.
They don't appreciate it. That's what I keep saying to some of the kids at our club. You can look anything up on YouTube now or whatever, find it on the internet. Back then you had to put the effort in and
you had to
track
work
it.
for
Yeah.
it. You had to work for it. But yes, we're getting back to the question. Yes,
Sorry.
I came back. No BJJ properly, but with my reportings and stuff, I was very fortunate in 2001. I met all the Scandinavians in Abu Dhabi. A guy called Michael Leiston was there. He owns Finn Fighters Gym. I think he's still high up in ADCC in Europe. John Olavinamo, Norwegian guy. Joachim Hansen, before he got into Pride. And through that contact, I got my foot in the door and witnessed the rise of Scandinavian Jiu Jitsu. A guy called Richard Bellinius, who's credited one of the godfathers of Scandinavian MMA, along with Marco, Rickard Anderson, Omar Buish, lots and lots. Alliance. Went over to Alliance in Finland. I lived over in Sweden, lived in Richard's gym down in Sundbyberg in Sweden. I was very, very fortunate to go there. And also in Holland, you've got Remco Pardell, very good friend of mine.
Oh, man. Really?
He helped me.
I'm friends with him on here, but I have sent him a message to try and get him on because that was Remco Pardue versus the Gladiator Orlando Veet was the first UFC fight I ever got. I think it was UFC 2 in the video I got. And I can still hear that today in my head, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you've seen it, you know what I mean. No spoilers if you haven't watched it. But even now, that's burned in. That's like the first time I saw Freddy Krueger or anything. Like those sort of memories you have, and that.
Yes.
I still remember. Oh man, yeah.
Yeah. So
he done well with technique as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So with the ADCC connection, I was out reporting pretty much, if not every other week, every week. In and around Europe, around Holland, with Remco. Remco was doing the rings, fighting. That was the Chris Dorman stuff. So Lee Hasdall was out there fighting a lot. I reported on Lee fighting in rings in England, and I'd see him out in Holland. Same with Paul Cahoon, some of the British guys. So I was out on the scene there, and Remco was instrumental as well, getting me out to ADCC. Then I met the Scandinavians, and it was just an awesome time. So BJJ was growing in England, but I was very fortunate to go out. The Scandinavian level was sky high back then. I did a lot of competing because I'd stay. Marco had Finn Fighters Gym, and he had a full of like Valetudo Finn fight. That was like proper Valetudo. No, everything goes, elbows to the head, kicks, crazy stuff. And I used to report on that, stay in a hotel and train with the Finn Fighters Gym for like 3 or 4 days. Same with Remco. He'd fight at the weekends. I'd go there from Thursday to Tuesday because EasyJet had just started. Yeah, so that's how old I am. So this is with Remco probably 2001, 2002. And you could, if you went Thursday and come back Tuesday, you could go from Liverpool to Amsterdam for like £25. It was ridiculous, And the airport isn't what it was. It was like, isn't what it's like now. It was in its infancy. Yeah. And not many people, you're going to Liverpool to fly away. Everybody went to Manchester Airport. But it was dirt cheap, And you get 4 or 5 days. So I'd train couple of nights at Remco's. He'd teach jiu-jitsu. They have kickboxing and Muay Thai. So I was training, but it was pretty much in and around Europe as well as went to Rogers and Braulio's. He came over, Victor Estima, and then all the training in and around the Northwest, like with the likes of Atherton Submission Wrestling, Ian Bromley, God bless his soul. I had to train with him a lot, and then it had evolved. We'd go to the Wolf's Lair, and that kind of came on it.
As it moved, that's what I was going to say. How did you see the sort of? How did you see the British progression? Because, like I say, I'm thinking back from a fan point of view. I remember there being a few different sort of UFC type of events in Europe. I can't remember getting the videos of them. There was never anyone. I don't think that was like a what was the star name at the time, but you could see these events were growing, or to the casual, which I thought was at the time. I wouldn't have known them who they were anyway. But I do remember a really old guy. I think it was Italian. He had long hair and loads of tattoos, and he did batter someone. I just always remember that just for the look of him. But then obviously that said, then we had the rise with UFC, like the first time they came over at the Royal Albert Hall.
Yeah.
With like
was Ian Freeman
Lee Ramirez, Ian Freeman, yeah, Ian Freeman and Mark, was it Mark Weir then?
Mark Weir at the time, yeah.
That was the quickest knockout. He got the quickest knockout, didn't he, at the time then for a while.
Yeah.
And then obviously later on, and then you had a few other names who got more famous for other things rather than fighting. I won't go too much into that but if you know, you know. If not, do your research. But there are a few fighters that got famous for other things, and then you kind of had that sort of Michael Bisping sort of ride, like you say, the Wolf, then like the Wolf Slayer, and then to kind of what it is now, where there seems to be a conveyor belt or a circuit nowadays where you can compete and you can get seen by UFC. It's not a hidden thing somewhere in America now. I mean, they got offices in London, they got offices across Europe. They've got, these performance centers are starting to pop up everywhere as well. I mean, what's it been like? What witnessing that, like literally from before it existed right the way through to now?
Yeah, it's like a privilege, I suppose, to see it from its early roots. Like you say, you've got Ian Freeman. But he fought on all the underground shows.
Yeah, and some ones in Europe as well, wasn't it? And,
that weren't as well known. And I was reporting on it. You have like Andy Jardine's Millennium Brawls. Those were at High Wycombe.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got a lot of big names at the time, but it wasn't UFC. But they were well known on on the circuit. So I'd be reporting on all those events. And Mick Bisping, before he went on The Ultimate Fighter 3, he's from the Northwest. I was teaching. He came and did about 5 or 6 weeks training at my gym where I was teaching in Bolton. And he was doing the rounds, just getting bits of experience in and stuff.
Yeah.
And then he got on The Ultimate Fighter 3. And then, from my opinion, I think everything really blew up when Mick was on UFC 75 in Manchester. I was teaching in Bolton, and I think that really put UK MMA on the stage. The Royal Albert Hall was fantastic, but I don't think the internet was as big as it was.
Yeah, so say it didn't have the. Because Sky had it. I can remember Sky had it years ago, like when it was at the Royal Albert Hall. Like, I think it was on Sky Box Office, but it was on at like odd times. It was never on like on a set time, and it was on for like an hour, and it was like a clip show, and you never got the big fight feel of it because it's just almost like one of those like ultimate knockout-y type things where they just rushed it through. Yeah, I remember the programming. Yeah.
The perception of it, the media. How media are fickle. Back then, it's a human cockfighting, it's barbaric. No, because it's mainstream. They changed the tune. So back then, it wasn't illegal, but it was kind of something.
Yeah, it was always like, it should be illegal. I remember.
I can't take my partner to this. Now you see them; they're in VIP booths, and you've got your girlfriends and girls go watching it, and fans, and which is good. But back then, like the Albert Hall and everything, it was still an underground movement.
Yeah.
Even though it was UFC, but no, obviously it's completely changed. But I was teaching 75. I think I was a purple belt when it came out. And Bisping was on in the UK. Because that was at Manchester. Myself, lots of my friends that had gyms in and around Bolton and Manchester, our phones went off the hook the day after. And seriously, for weeks, honestly, obviously the internet was around, so I had a website and stuff. my phone was ringing up. Yeah, I want to do that UFC. I want to do that UFC training. So yeah, come down, come down and train. But they didn't last long, because they think it's easy. And so half of them couldn't, just a basic warm up, like they bent over and stuff. It was just the buzz thing, but it did.
My favourite is, I don't need any of that, because once I see red, they're going down anyway.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. And the same when I first started teaching. We're street fighters. We're just checking you out, seeing what you like and stuff. But like, joking aside, it did explode. I think it exploded for the UK after number 75.
For
the UFC, and then people, and BJJ was expanding and stuff. And of course, I think the internet was expanding at the same time, because I was in LA in '99. I'd just got my email address, because it was a .com, it was hotmail.com, and I got that just before I left, because you didn't really need to email people in 1999. No, my mates, you'd phone each other up, but because I was away, I would email. My brother was in IT. He was an IT trainer, so he was quite keyed up on it. So he said, right, you need an email account, and I kept in touch back then, but it wasn't as like now. God, people can't exist without the phones, for 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's gone full blast now. But what then? So, what about you as a fighter, or you as a martial artist, and then you obviously now as a coach? As this has gone on, this rise in sort of the last sort of 20 odd years or whatever, how has that impacted you? Are you training more now? Has it made the gym, like you say, those phones started off the hook? Has it kept steady, or was it a fad, or was it a?
Yeah, when I was a blue belt, that was 2003. I was teaching in Bolton, and the classes, like I say, were packed, because it was the new kid on the block. So I was having like 60, 70 people in class, and it was like I say, JKD, Wing Chun, Judo, Sambo, wrestling, street fighters, all that type of stuff. And I was only a blue belt, and getting challenges all the time. You'll if you interview some other old school guys, a friend of mine, Mick Shaw, he was teaching. He was not teaching. He was training up in Doncaster with the likes of Neil Owen and stuff. And I have still chat with Mick now, and he's got a book out, and he talks about the challenges people have just come in off the streets. We've heard about this jiu-jitsu, and you couldn't back down. You've got a class full of people. I've been working on the doors all weekend, and then can we spar? Can we fight? And I'm like, later on. No, I want to do it now. Well, you had to do it, Then, not many of them went. They didn't last long, but that was the style back then. The teaching was more based around, I think, more fighting, because it was a couple of strikes, clinch, takedown, like see with Hicks and Gracie, see with Roger, on world-class opponents. The takedown, pass guard, side control mount, cross collar choke, finish. So my jiu-jitsu now still is old school, and I'm 54 now. I can't do all this new stuff. I can't do all this upside down berimbolo, 26 steps to take in the back and all that. Yeah, it's great. It's evolved. I was at a seminar about a month ago with one of the Mayo brothers. I think it was Yoa, and it was all Tarika Plata and Barata Plata, but rolling into it from all these things. And he's dead young and skinny. I was there with myself and some of my students. I was the oldest on the mat, in my 50s, and I'm just looking at this. I'm thinking, I can't do that. But I wanted to do it. Some of it I could do. Yeah. Brilliant. The next day, I couldn't move a muscle, But it's moved on. So a lot of that, that's purely sport. If you're trying to apply your jiu-jitsu, you won't be doing all this upside down, fancy spinning, inverted stuff in a live situation. So I am old school with my students. I tell them all, I give them the history. Say, if you want to learn this, the places that I train, you can go and train with other clubs that have this more modern approach. But for me, the proof is in my students competing. Before I went full time, I was only teaching a few nights a week, the occasional maybe once every three Saturdays. And I've got my guys going out, competing in and around London, the grappling industries, ADCC. They're winning gold medals. They're beating the big name gyms who've got, like, say, 10 classes a day. So it does, the old school, it still works, And I've a bit of judo in my jiu-jitsu, traditional, a lot of catch wrestling and wrestling. The half ouch. I've got a few students have nailed that in comps, and I just love all that kind of thing. So I don't.
That's one of my favourites, actually.
Yeah, I love it. Use it on the doors. You've been like rugby tackled or stormed and stuff. You can just kind of sprawl, get a hand underneath, turn them over, get a restraint on them, or get them out of the venue. So sometimes I just joke. I say, it's not really Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, mine. It's probably just Jiu-Jitsu. That's where Rob Drysdale's books come in. In Brazil, they just say they train Jiu-Jitsu. If you read his books, and I've read his, what's his interview? I've read his books. I chat with him a lot. His books are really well-researched insight into the history of Jiu-Jitsu. So I think lots of different clubs will have a different approach to how they do Jiu-Jitsu. It'll be styled. It'll be ran the same, like I say, techniques, drills, specific sparring.
Yeah.
But it's what you put in for your techniques and stuff which makes it different. But yeah, my students enjoy everything. I go to seminars, still go to seminars a lot. I was with Damien Meyer. He was at London Fight Factory. That was where the Mayo seminar was. With Damien again, only about 3 weeks ago. He did a gi and no gi seminar. And a lot of that was just old school jiu-jitsu, what is used in the UFC.
Yeah.
Thinking, well, if Damien
say it's the application of it and who's teaching it. So, 100%. I totally get that. So what's left now then for Carl Fisher? Because you've got your Wimbledon BJJ, you've got your coaching, are you still thinking of competing and thing, or what other goals have you set for yourself? Because you're definitely not someone who sits still. So I just wondering what else you got lined up or thinking about.
Well, my head's telling me to compete, but my body is saying otherwise. I've competed at every belt level in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I've competed everywhere. I've competed all over the world. Yeah, I've never won anything major. I've always kind of been self-taught pretty much. I've never had what my students have. My students are beginners now. They've got a 2-stripe black belt teaching them from day one. And I can see they're just improving so quickly. Pretty much how I improved when I was in Los Angeles. I had like John and Hegan.
Yeah.
And all the black belt. If I'd have stayed there and something, I might have been completely different. But obviously I came back, So it wasn't inconsistent, but it wasn't pure gi. I'd do a bit of Sambo and I'd do submission wrestling here. And I'd go to jiu-jitsu in Manchester, Bradford, Yorkshire, down south, that kind of thing. So I was going to compete, and then COVID hit, and I was thinking of doing it again. There was a competition. I think it was no gi and submission only, but it was like 35 plus. Now I think at the time I was either 53, I think, or 54. And I thought, oh God, I'm going to be going against people like 20 years younger. And then they showed the roster of fighters. for it because I was a black belt level. I just looked at the Brazilian with his ears like this and nobody like that with no neck. And I was like, oh my God, And I didn't get the chance to train as much as I wanted to.
Yeah.
But something is that I keep saying I'm going to do it. If I do, I do. If not, I'm just concentrating on teaching. I don't have anything to prove. I've competed when people weren't even aware of the sport. When some people were involved,
That's to say, you put your time in. Don't worry about that. Yeah.
Put my time in. I've been all over the world. It's been really good to me. Just back starting teaching kids again. Just carry on teaching self-defense when I can. That's the.
That's what I was going to say, because you also, as another side, we haven't even been scratching up, you've devised whole sorts of schemes and not schemes of what do you call it, like programs for like self-defense and things as well, haven't you? That you rolled out and stuff as well. So we haven't even got to any of that. I mean, we could probably do another 10 hours on all the other, let alone all the security guarding and the football security and all the other stuff that you've done. So as I say, you always seem to be a very busy man. For the amount of time it took to nail this one down as well.
I know. It's just one thing led.
No, it's brilliant.
Just wouldn't cross paths, and I thought I've got to get this sorted. But yeah, there's so much to talk about because the security melds in with the training, and a lot of the people I trained with when I was on the doors back then, not all these jacket fillers you see these days. You can't. There's too many video cameras out, and as soon as there's trouble, they've got the cameras and stuff. Back then, there was a bit of a line drawn, but you had to deal with it. It's real world violence. You've got to meet it with some violence of your own. And a lot of the doormen I work with, they either did boxing, wrestling, judo, or martial art, or some of them just did gym work. Some of them didn't, and some of them I learned so much they were just tough, hard people. But that's for another.
That's for another.
We'll
come back later. Yeah,
but it kind of they go hand in hand.
I know, definitely. And like you're saying, it all goes back. Everything should be applied. That's one thing I think. It should be for application. And like you say, it can look pretty, but can you actually do it? Is it something that will help you? And
No, my business partners from the self-protection now, they'll be watching this. They'll hear you that. They'll be going, "Oh my God, don't get Cal going on that, or don't get me started on it." This applied stuff against versus the Hollywood BS that we call it. Yeah, that's an absolute another wormhole to go down.
But anyway, so what other as around that then? What other goals have you got for yourself though as a coach? Then, let's say if the competing's there, what about as a coach in your gym? You're out winning medals now. You got your guys out there.
Yeah, I just want to. I've got a little association going, the Northern Monkey Brazilian Jiu Jitsu Association. Some clubs don't want to be affiliated to the big clubs. I was going to launch that a few years ago. Again, COVID hit. Got a couple of gyms on board with me now. I've got Doghouse MMA. It's one of my black belts. He's based in Mitcham. George Brown. I've got Chris Petherwick. He's now Petherwick Jiu Jitsu. He was Submission Scoundrels. He's over in Tidworth. I did a seminar for him. I'd like to try and expand on that, get a few clubs on board with that, carry on teaching, try and bring more kids into it, try and get more women either into self-defense or jiu-jitsu, just to show them the empowerment it gives, not just for women and kids, just for everybody, for men as well. I've guys come through the door who were like me, who's got a good battering in town, and I really severely dented my confidence, and it does empower people. Once you realise, you can fight back, you can change your mindset, whether it's for sport jiu-jitsu or self-defence. Like I said, just my students doing the sport side of it, doing my gi and no gi, I can see the confidence change. You just walk tall, and that can be all you need to avoid a lot of trouble, without going in to all the self-defense side of it and stuff. but yeah, I just want to just keep my gym going. I just want to keep training, you know. I'm
Excellent. So
54.
if anyone, sorry, carry on. If
It's
you're
all right, no,
50,
I'm 54. Yeah, we all joke about injuries and stuff, but I have my good days, and then some days just things just ache and that. But I ramp my training down. I tell my students when I roll, just go at my pace, go easy. If we can have a bit of a tear up, I will, you know. But I just want to keep going.
mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah,
20 years ago, it was like, yeah, I want to train 3 times a day every day, you know, and I could do that, but I can't do that now. I want to train maybe 3 or 4 times a week for the next 10 years. And in
yeah.
between that, go into the gym and go for walks and just exercise, just keep active. My dad was very
Yeah,
active.
it's the smarter, not harder approach, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like, it's it
yeah,
train for you, don't train for where you just wear yourself out and
yeah.
everything's
I've got
knackered.
yeah, I've got teenagers that have probably ripped me up, and they're like 6'2", ripped to death. They're in the gym all the time. I did some specifics with them last week, and they just locked me down in half guard. Like I thought my knee was going to fall off. So strong, and I thought, oh God, if I start amping it up, they're going to get it amped up, and I thought I'm going to get really badly injured. So but I've talked to them, and we go a little bit easier now. I don't
Yeah,
need to prove anything. I say to my students, I said, there's no point me trying to match it. And with my adults, I've got some big beasts. I've got a wrestling coach, Claudia. He's like Romanian, 120 kilos, 5'2", small but round, proper barrel
yeah,
wrestler. Oh God! But to give him his credit, when we roll, he knows my age and my limitations. I still get squashed, but not in a bad way. So I still like getting squashed and pushed around and stuff, and I just want to just carry on for as long as I can, just being active on the mats and carry on teaching till some time when I can't. But today is not that day.
nah. I said, no, you keep going. And if anyone's listening to this or watching this and likes the sound of what you've been saying, all the different things that you do, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Oh, well, it'd have to be on the social media now, isn't it? It's not on the word of mouth like I did. It's all such a body's gym's opening, and then you'd have to go on an A to Z. People won't know what that is. Like 20 years younger, we'd have A to Zs because I was a delivery driver, and you'd mark all the gyms until you got them in your head. So yes,
Oh,
Wimbledon BJJ.com. That's my website.
mm-hmm.
At BJ Wimbledon is my Instagram. So
Cool. Well, I'll link it in the show notes anyway. I'll link it in the notes so everyone can
yeah,
just
I'll give you
click
the
on it for
details.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's not a problem.
those are the main ones. I'm in South Wimbledon. Easy to get to. Public transport, tube, train, bus, free on-site car parking. I have Saturday open mats. I have a student from Leicester, Craig, if you're watching. He travels down to all my Saturday classes. I get people who I've met on the circuit. Now they all drop in. They all come from all over the country. You're all welcome to come down on the classes. You can have me on Facebook. It's just Carl Fisher, dead simple. You can find me on that. Everybody's welcome. Come down. Just share the jiu-jitsu. I'm always learning off other people. So doors are always open. So I think that's
Excellent.
it. The best
Well,
ways to get me.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time today. As I say, yeah, you were one of the first guests I was trying to get on here, and it's
Yeah,
we're such a busy man. Well, we're both trying to match schedules, but we've finally done it, so I'm
yeah.
very
No, it's
pleased.
been
So,
fantastic.
thank you very much, sir.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Thanks again, Carl, for chatting to us this week. I've been your host, Brett Summers, and this has been episode 26 of the Grapple with Your Eye show. If you want to keep up with everything we're doing, you can visit the grapplewithyoureye.com or check out our social medias on Facebook, Instagram, and all the others. If you like to watch our podcasts, you can check them out on YouTube. And if you like to listen, we are available on Spotify, Podcast Addict, Apple Podcasts, and all the other usual places. We will be back next week with another episode. Until then, stay safe and stay on the mats.